who is Rupert Murdoch. You know him, folks. Of course, Fox News. Okay, Fox. He owns Fox, as you know. Well, he's an Australian-born American oligarch, yes, and media tycoon. Through his company, News Corp, he is the owner of hundreds of local, national, and international publishing outlets, folks. They're all over the world. He moved to the United States in 1974, became a naturalized citizen in 1985. He moved here for a business purpose. He moved here specifically to get around an FCC rule that restricted foreigners from owning more than 25% of a free television broadcaster or radio station. That's why he came. And then in 2004, he moved his News Corp headquarters from Australia to the United States because he wanted to ensure that American fund managers could purchase shares in his company, since many were deciding not to buy shares in non-U.S. companies. He moved here because of a series of business decisions. Do not get that twisted. He didn't move here because of free speech. He didn't move here because of diversity. He didn't move here because of equity or inclusion. He moved here to make his paper, baby, and that is all he's about. He didn't move here because it was a democracy. He didn't care where he moved. It just happened to be here because he needed some of that U.S. paper. All right, that is what America represents to him. Money, not people. All right, Murdoch has a net worth of $21.7 billion as of March 2022. He is the 31st richest person in the United States, the 71st richest person in the world. Many of his papers and television channels have been accused of biased and misleading coverage to support his business interests and his political agenda. Trump, Putin, Murdoch, they're all cut from the same cloth, people. What's his name in North Korea? All of them are the same. More than any single media company, the Murdoch empire has been accused of and has enabled, promoted, and profited from a far-right and hugely profitable political propaganda machine. The results have been striking in destabilizing democracies. That's just what he does. You move to the country, we're a democracy first, and his objective is to destabilize the democracy. He's going to destroy this country if we don't watch out. Destabilizing democracy, and he's done it all over the world, folks. That is being called Rupert Murdoch's most consequential legacy, destroying countries. What a guy. Ugh. And don't leave out his efforts to stop people from fighting climate change, his relentless campaign to demonize people of color as dangerous threats to a white majority or a white minority, which is what they really are. He came here for the money, and he will burn this whole country down so he can get his paper. It does not matter. And I'm talking, he will particularly burn down people of color because he don't give a damn about us. He is the worst sort of capitalist that ever lived. Some have referred to it as gangster activities. I'm Carol Angela Davis. All right, and looking at your news from around the neighborhood and around the world, we're going to start with your headlines where 3 white men beat a black man and the black man was arrested. You've heard that before. Also, microplastics are now being found in your lungs while you're alive, not just dead people. Then Notre Dame football is going to face off with an HBCU. That should be exciting. Plus, you can now travel free of COVID rules to this Caribbean destination, and a hate crimes plea for this Soho Karen, and more. All right, a black man in Mississippi says he was beaten unconscious by 3 men after being falsely accused of burglary. Okay, so when the police came, who do you think they detained? He was beaten unconscious. Okay, so when the police came, they arrested the black man. Does that make sense? Oh, these people are terrible. They're the worst people in the world. Well, the black man's name is Antonio Hollingsworth, and he says that the police got him and arrested him instead of the 3 white men who beat him. He said he was almost beaten to the death, and the police just made it worse. All this happened at the Napa Auto Parts store there in Cleveland, Mississippi. Needless to say, Hollingsworth has hired an attorney to settle this idiocy. Listen, Antonio, I hope your attorney goes for the jugular on that. Just take the money from the city because they don't have sense enough to train the police officers or fire them for their racist tendencies. Let's move on. Because I want to look at your health, because these microplastics are becoming a bigger problem by the day, and now for the first time they have been found in the lungs, deep in the lungs of living people. Okay, you know we're breathing that mess every day. Microparticles were discovered in the tissue of 11 out of 13 patients undergoing surgery. Now, the most common microparticles were polypropylene. That's used in plastic packaging and pipes. They also found particles from PET, which is used in bottles. 2 previous studies found microplastics at similarly high rates, but they were in the lungs of dead people. Now they're in your lungs. Oh boy, I'm telling you, climate change and all this mess, all these plastics. All right, let's go to sports. Well, guess what? Notre Dame football is going to play against a historically black college. It's Tennessee State University, folks. I know you want to see that game. The game is set for Labor Day weekend 2023. The Tigers and the Irish, plus the aristocrat of bands and the band of the Fighting Irish. Tennessee State, coached by former Ohio State Heisman Trophy winner and NFL All-Pro running back Eddie George, people. All right. The Tigers have 12 black college football national titles and 2 Pro Football Hall of Famers. They're going up against the Fighting Irish. They have 11 national titles and 13 Pro Football Hall of Famers. I can't wait to see that game. And I'm not a football fan because I don't like the NFL because they are just so horrifying. All right, let's move on. More on your health. Folks, climate change and rising temperatures could affect the salt levels in your blood. So who cares, you ask? Well, it's important, it turns out. More people are getting hospitalized due to hyponatremia in temperatures above 59 degrees Fahrenheit or 15 degrees Celsius. Now, hyponatremia causes sodium levels in the blood to be lower than normal. And that's not good because sodium is an electrolyte and it is essential for a wide range of body functions, including your nerve impulses, regulating your heart rate, your digestion, your brain activity, and your blood pressure. So if your sodium levels drop too low or too fast, symptoms might include difficulty concentrating, headaches, and nausea. In more severe cases, symptoms can include confusion, seizures, and a coma. Oh, we got to get this climate change under control. It's a mess. Because, and this is one more thing I want to tell you about climate change because I want to take a look at Washington State and Houston, Texas. All right, pardon me, sea levels have risen there about 9 inches, sea levels in general, have risen about 9 inches since 1880, with 1/3 of that gain just in the last 25 years, folks. Get this, Taholah is a village. It's on Washington's coast, and it is the capital for the Quinault Indian Nation, which is a tribe of about 3,600 people. All right, now in Taholah, climate change is causing sea levels to rise that is so bad that a 62-year-old man said a boulder that he used to trek out to on foot when he was a kid is now submerged by 30 feet of water. Oh my goodness. Now the Quinault Indian Nation is moving their village to a site that is more than 100 feet above sea level. And you should know that American Indians and Alaska Natives in the U.S. are on the front lines of climate change. So we have to be very, very careful and make sure we're looking out for them. Now I want to turn to Texas, where there's still a problem in Texas as well. Harris County. That's where Houston is, folks. Harris County is a huge, sprawling region of 4.7 million people, and half of them live in Houston. Harris County is also the national leader in federally funded home buyouts. Now, you know the federal government isn't buying your house unless they have to. Let's be clear about that. Already, there have been more than 3,500 home buyouts due to climate issues, and now there is a mandatory FEMA buyout program. It's for about 400 mostly residential properties. They're spread throughout 8 areas, and they affect 2,000 people. They have to move. Doesn't matter what they want. They got to move because of the climate. We got to be on top of this. All right, let's turn to politics for Representative Liz Cheney. Now remember, Liz Cheney voted to impeach Trump, and then she's on the January 6th commission. So Trump fielded a candidate against her in the Senate. Remember, she's the daughter of a former vice president. Well, I got to tell you something. They are throwing money at Liz Cheney, hoping she beats that woman Trump back. She's outraised her by all kinds of money. So there is some good news coming, even on the Republican side, where people are starting to say, wait a minute, these loonies, we don't want them in Congress. All right, now let's go to our wonderfully wonderful Supreme Court Judge, Katanji Brown Jackson, who was born in D.C., raised in Miami, baby. That's right. All right, she traces her love of law back to sitting next to her dad in their apartment while he was doing his law school homework. Aww. As you might expect, when Justice Jackson told her high school guidance counselor that she wanted to go to Harvard, you know what that guidance counselor told her, because it's the same thing the guidance counselor told you. Don't set your sights so high. Well, Miss Katanji Brown, excuse me, Justice Katanji Brown Jackson paid absolutely no attention to her like the rest of us, also to that counselor, nor did the rest of us. And guess what? She went on to not only graduate from Harvard University, but to graduate magna cum laude. Also, she attended Harvard Law School, where she graduated cum laude and was an editor of the Harvard Law Review. Previously, we should tell you, Jackson was served on the U.S. District Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia, and President Barack Obama nominated Jackson as District Court Judge in 2012. Go on, sister. All right, in Caribbean news, another Caribbean island has completely removed its COVID testing requirements. That would be the Eastern Caribbean island of Grenada. I've been there, and it's fabulous. Grenada's government has lifted all restrictions for entry onto the island, regardless of your vaccination status. That means travelers don't have to take any test before arrival, don't have to fill out a health form, declaration form and don't have to quarantine, okay? But if you are returning to the United States, then of course the CDC does still require a return COVID test for all travelers. And then finally today, oh yes, we got to get to Miss Karen. Finally today, remember the California woman who was seen on cell phone video falsely accusing a 14-year-old black teenager named Keon Harold Jr. of stealing her cell phone and then reportedly attacking him? Oh yes, these people have gall. Well, she has pleaded guilty to a felony in New York. You're going to live with that, dear, for the rest of your life. Her name is Mia Ponsetto. She pleaded guilty to unlawful imprisonment as a hate crime. You remember that incident that happened in December 2020 in the Arlo Soho Hotel lobby in Manhattan. Ponsetto's phone was ultimately found and returned by her Uber driver because, of course, that's where she left the doggone phone in the first place before she accused that teenager. You may also remember Ponsetto being on CBS This Morning and using a hand gesture to shush Gayle King. I don't think so. Well, under the deal, she will do no jail time, and that's the only problem I have with it, because I think these people need to go to jail, put a stop to this silliness. Those are your stories. I'm Carol Angela Davis, and we will see you for Missing. Of course, we've also got the Slay Word, plus Ask Dr. K, the International Report, and Crypto Convo. Stay with us. Time to level up that vocab with your Slay Word of the week, and this week the word is calamity. C-A-L-A-M-I-T-Y, calamity. Okay, its origin is in the 15th century. Wow, some of these words, it is shocking how long they've been used. The definition of calamity is a disastrous event marked by great loss and lasting distress and suffering. Can you spell Ukraine? All right, anyway, let's use it in a sentence. All right. It's been 16 months since Joe Biden took office and since we were spared the calamity of Donald Trump's presidency. Whew! Yes, Lord. All right, let's move on. Sentence number 2. There is talk of unending calamities in Ukraine and the need for the International Criminal Court to try Putin as a war criminal as a result of his actions. Calamity, folks. That's right. It is a disastrous event marked by great loss and lasting distress and suffering. That's your Slay Word of the week. Use it in your convos all week and level up that vocab.
I'm Otha Smith, CEO and founder of Tetragram, a mobile app for cannabis consumers to keep track of the products they purchase, rate the effectiveness of that product, and then share those personal reviews with others. I'm here today at Marion Main Dispensary in Capitol Heights, Maryland, owned and operated by my homegirl, Hope Wiseman. Please download the Tetragram app today and take control of your personal journey with cannabis.
Where are you? We're looking for you. We're looking for missing black girls, and with the community's help, we're going to find you. Here's our feature for the week. Tiffany Marche Phelps vanished on January 26, 2006. She was last seen on the corner of Center Street and Ingram Streets in Henderson, Kentucky. She was homeless but kept in touch with her relatives. She's 5 feet 3 inches tall and of a medium complexion. Tiffany's age would be between the mid-40s or 50s by now. Please call 877-97-BAMFI. That's 877-97-BAMFI with any information. Where are you? We are out there looking for you. And with the community's help, we will find you. Next up, the International Report with Dr. Inyang Ebong Karstrup. Ini?
Hello, Carol. How are you this afternoon? I'm glad to be back here for yet another week. And this week, I want to talk about some good news. And it's good news in the context of health. Basically, the HIV/AIDS vaccine has been developed and is being rolled out in South Africa and Brazil. This offers long-lasting protection against HIV in terms of, you know, we have the tablet that you can take, the oral PrEP. But now that has had problems where some people don't want to use it because of stigma, because they fear the intimate partner may react if they're taking a pill every day. So this is a wonderful thing, having an injection that lasts for 2 months that is protective against HIV. And basically, though, what we have to bear in mind is that this vaccine costs $20,000 a year in the North. That is in the United States, Canada, Britain. So it's going to be a while before it can be rolled out to countries at large. But the very fact that it exists and it can be used, in Brazil, they're using it in the transgender community. And in South Africa, they're using it for young women and girls, because the highest rates of infection are with young women and girls. So in the face of fighting in the Ukraine, Russia being incredibly difficult, we have some good news here. We never thought in our lifetimes we'd see it, but we finally seen a vaccine against HIV and AIDS. This is Inyanga Bonghaastrup from the International News. I'll see you again next week.
Hi guys, this is Lionel. Welcome back for another crypto convo. And today I really just wanted to explain what is decentralized finance going to be used for. A lot of times I feel like people don't really understand how crypto is going to integrate within our world. All right, so basically it's going to be a public service, a good. The same way how we have libraries, fire departments and schools, and you can use these things for free, but this is going to be a digital public service. The same way that we use the internet, the same ways that we use email. Whenever you go to either buy, sell, or trade crypto, decentralized finance is going to be there for us to tap into and use for free. If you need to send money across the world, if you need to take out a loan, if you need to pay your auto loan, or all of the banking services that we use, any sorts of thing that you can think of that has to do with finance, when the setting, when this gets done being set up, there will be that accessibility online for anybody to tap in and to use, and it's gonna feel natural. It's gonna feel right in line with our society. Literally, like I said, the same way that we use email, the internet, and we don't even think about it. We don't even understand the code that's behind email. You're not going to need to know how crypto works and how all these different things work, but there will be so many different avenues for us to use finance online. So I just wanted to give a quick explanation about that, just to further clarify crypto, because right now it's a little bit esoteric. It's not understood well how it's going to be integrated, how Bitcoin and Ethereum and all these things are going to be integrated within society. But that's it, and I'll see you next week. Bye.
I am Carol Angela Davis. You know, we close out the show with your health and welfare and Ask Dr. K. So she is here again with us today, as she is every week. Hey, Dr. K.
Hey, how are you? Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. I know we're going to talk about those autoimmune disorders, which seems like everybody has one these days.
There's so much in the media about health, but what we really have to do is dissect it and find out what is missing, if anything. But if something's missing, point it out. So in the AARP journal, they had an article about autoimmune diseases and aging people. And the incidence of autoimmune diseases has doubled in the last 30 years, and it's affecting people above the age of 50 and adolescents. And so the article went into all these experts, NIH, rheumatologists, professors, etc., about this problem. They were talking about lifestyle. 80,000 chemicals have been approved for use in the last 30 years. They talked about our environment, obesity. They talked about all kinds of factors that we already know. So they briefly touched on diet.
Mm-hmm.
Briefly. Then the article transitioned into the latest medications on the market to treat all these autoimmune diseases. And the article was so informative that it actually said, as we age, the older we get, autoimmune diseases are going to become very common in the elderly. It's actually that bad.
Wow.
So let's talk about diet. It is well known, the research has already been done that shows autoimmune diseases are related to the Western diet and lifestyle. That is the ultra-processed foods, animal-based diet, meat and dairy. The plant-based whole foods diet is an anti-inflammatory diet, and therefore it is actually a diet that will help autoimmune diseases and prevent them. Whereas the Western diet and lifestyle produces inflammation. And the whole thing about the autoimmune diseases is that they represent basically friendly fire in war. Your immune system gets all ramped up by what you're eating, and it actually starts to work against you. So how do we prevent that? Reduce inflammation. How do we reduce inflammation? Get the meat and the dairy and the processed foods out of our diet. So the other thing that this article highlights is when we read an article, we simply have to think that everything that we're taking in somehow affects our health. Our diet is not separate from our health. Every piece of food we eat impacts our health. So when we're reading it and they're talking about pharmaceuticals, we also have to look at it and say, but what am I eating? And if I'm eating it, can I change it and perhaps change the outcome? And the answer is, chances are you can. So think about it. It's not all about pharmaceuticals. So yes, in order to prevent and treat autoimmune diseases, we simply have to change what we're eating. And the whole foods, plant-based diet is critical in this process.
Dr. K, what are some of those autoimmune diseases that they're talking about?
Lupus, ulcerative colitis, irritable bowel syndrome, sarcoidosis, Sjögren's syndrome, multiple sclerosis. These are all autoimmune diseases. There are 100 or more autoimmune diseases. Every system in the body can be affected by the autoimmune system working against it.
It's so interesting because I don't mean to cut you off, just real quick. I noticed on the television now, they are advertising medication for multiple sclerosis. I mean, so many people have multiple sclerosis. It's actually worth it for them to put an ad out there for a pharmaceutical than saying anything about the diet.
Exactly. Psoriasis, eczema, all of these diseases are prevented / treated through the diet. And I'm not saying if your doctor says get on something, I'm not saying don't get on it, but also change your diet and see how that affects the disease. Arthritis, they talked about all the people who have died, not only from the disease, but the treatment, because these medications that are coming on the market are not benign. So people—
And when you say not benign, you said not benign. What does that mean?
They have a lot of complications.
Okay. All right, everybody, you hear her. You hear what she's saying now. You know you're out there, multiple sclerosis, you lupus, you know, sarcoidosis, and all these other diseases. So change your diet. And that's why we're here every week, because we're helping you change your diet. We're helping you understand why you should change it. We know it's not easy. And you can't do it all at once. And Dr. K addresses that, and she'll address that going forward, as she always has. So we'll be back next week, more on your wellness. Thank you, Dr. K.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And we'll see you guys next week.